Hello, everybody, and welcome back. That was a fantastic match one, but a little bit of disappointing news on our end. All three of us got our predictions wrong for this one.
Yeah, definitely. I felt pretty bad after that one. But I mean, we did talk about it. We said Winthrop is one of those teams that like it's not just going to be like a clear-cut 2-0. That they can really take games off. Um, Man, it was confusing though. I feel like both teams had their moments where it's like, oh, like we were going to be right. Like Bogged's going 2-0, and then something would happen mid, and we'd just be like, never mind. Winthrop's going to take this first game. Like it was just very back and forth. But I feel like that was just kind of the nature. And maybe it's going to be the nature of the series. It's going to be interesting going into game two, see if that's going to be the same way.
For sure. And I ain't even mad. I mean, yeah, sure, my predictions are wrong, but I just wanted a good, close series. And we certainly got that in this particular game. Granted, it wasn't the cleanest. Like Nova kind of said, Boggs sometimes has off games, and this certainly looked like one. But Winthrop, huge props to them for being able to take advantage of it here. And we're really starting to see why, Mabud is picking that Trinamir so early, blind even, because it just looks so good.
I mean, that wasn't the only advantage Winthrop had, because let's be real, the advantages started from the beginning, right from the draft. The fact that Bogged didn't get their first three picks, how important was this to the draft and just the overall game, do y'all think?
I mean, it was pretty important. I mean, obviously, Jinx is one of those picks that is either banned or just picked, right? I think in CELO, at least in the South Division, it's like 100% pick rate or ban rate, right? So that's definitely one of those picks that I think slipped through the draft just based on, kind of what the bans were looking like. Obviously, I mean, I'm not really sure how much priority Bogged really has on the Trinamir that the Mabud has, but I mean, I imagine, that especially after game one, that's going to be banned going into game two. So I'm sure that it probably messed up a lot in terms of what their plan was going to be for draft. But I mean, still, Bogged had some opportunities to come back in this game due to their draft. I mean, the Rise first pick and then moving into the side lanes, it seemed like they were very confident in what they wanted to accomplish. But yeah, definitely the execution just seemed to be lacking.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, the Trinamir, the Gwen, these sort of champions that Mabud plays so well in the split push and even in the team fights are things that need to be banned. But Bogg's draft wasn't bad. When we looked at the draft, we actually thought Bogg pretty much got all the pieces that they wanted in terms of how they wanted to execute. And we did get to see that a little bit in the early game, especially some of those early top lane focus dives that were coming through from the side of Bogg. It looked good, but the problem, I think, was more towards the mid-late, when Trinamir starts to scale up. What are you going to do? And if Bogged have those bans, I think we see a very, very different series come through.
Well, I feel like a reoccurring theme for all of us while watching this, just what are they going to do just in response to this? There's a lot of mistakes coming out in this game, to be real, giving advantages over to each and other team. But going over to replays, we have a couple of those. Nova, I'd love if you could take us through this first replay that we have queued up for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. This is just kind of an example of the confusion that we really had watching the game. I think that the execution or the original plans were kind of there. They really want to make this top lane move with Pantheon happen with the ultimate. We had the support move. We want to be able to collapse and probably kill Ivano. And then we just kind of see it fall apart, right? Hooks doesn't realize that the Ignite is still on Silas, so he starts taking that turret from the damage from the turret. He falls, and then obviously that just starts kind of this chain reaction where a Bogged, where they might have had the initial advantage, definitely ended up taking the fall in that particular play. So I feel like that's kind of where things maybe started to fall apart. We saw plays from Bogged kind of be back and forth, like sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't. But it seemed like getting their footing after that particular play, yeah, that maybe put some damage into their mentals a bit for sure.
Definitely, and it seemed to be a theme that kind of stuck with them through the game, but we have two more replays as well, kind of show off a little bit and kind of break it down further, RMC.
Yeah, so the next sort of replay I wanted to look at was the Baron take, where Bogged does get the Baron, but really, for Bogged here, getting the Baron wasn't the important thing. This is coming off after Mabud kind of 1v1s kills Dishao, and Winthrop should have had the Baron. They had all the advantage. They pulled everybody bot side, and yes, we did see the Realm Warp come through, but what we're not seeing here is how low the Baron got health-wise. If anything, if Winthrop had just turned immediately the moment Mabud was like, okay, I've got this 1v1, we see them moving down, go for Baron. If they went for that, this should have been a Winthrop Baron with no contest. Instead, Bogged gets the Baron, and for a second, it looks like Bogged is going to be able to come back, is going to be able to scale up and just win despite struggling in that side lane so heavily.
Yeah, definitely. As the game went on, Winthrop, they took the advantage, and Bog kind of closed it more and more as things went on, and things looked a little particular. But we do have one more replay. RMC, I believe you're going to be taking us through this one as well for how things ended up.
Yeah, I mean, the last replay is literally just the last fight here. It's more just by how sudden everything kind of went here. It's one of the few rare 5v5s we saw where everybody was ready and waiting. And once again, it starts off with Mabud just beating up Dishao here. The Pantheon pick that was picked for lane didn't work. And the moment Dishao goes down, it's a 5v4. Sure, Dragon gets stolen away again by Inori, but you can see that Bog just can't fight after that. And they get out, but you can't defend your base at this time. You're already numbers down. Winthrop just chasing, get kills, end game. And it just feels so abrupt because of the champions and the way it ended up going.
Yeah, so then with winning in such an abrupt way and just a game overall that was kind of built up to this point off of mistakes, what do you really want to be seeing in this game too to try and actually help Winthrop take this in a 2-0 series?
Yeah, definitely. I would say keep up what you're doing. I mean, you had the counter, you had the preferred pick from Mabud, which is really something we talked about before the start, even the series even started. I don't know if that trinity is going to be left up, but if it's not, just make sure that Mabud is playing a champion that he's comfortable with. I think going for the support counter pick and the ball lane was a really smart decision. It kind of nullified whatever it is that the Hooks wanted to do in that ball lane with Benji. Kind of forced him to start making plays on the opposite side of the map, which I think we really started to see. I wouldn't mind if they want to go ahead and do it. Obviously, if they're on the red side. If they are on the blue side, I would maybe even see them take a page out of Bog's book, right? Go ahead and take that rise, get the priority in that mid lane, and then go ahead and make plays into the top side. Get Mabud ahead in the early stages of the game. I think Mabud, in a lot of situations, he kind of gets left alone in the early parts of the game, and then somehow he's just up 100 CS at 30 minutes, right? It's just like very confusing. So I think Winthrop has options and has choices here. But I know that we did hear that Winthrop is going to be on blue side, so it'll be interesting to see if they do want to go ahead and take that page out of Bog's book and maybe just take that rise and then play for Mabud if he's not going to be able to get that counter pick on red side.
I mean, the page that they definitely would want to be taking out of Bog's book right now is be able to take the series in a 2-0 and be able to move on. They showed that they can take a win, and now we just have to look forward into this next match to see if, they can do it again or if Bog's going to be able to bounce back. Of course, for that, though, we're going to throw it over to our wonderful casters. It's Max and Desirux for match number 2.
Welcome back to the casting desk. Winthrop's Max, they're taking game 1. We saw in the analyst desk, we saw their little prediction saying 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, bogged. I'm looking a little bit right now. I'm happy about that one, but let's start breaking down this game, Smacks, because this was an intense one to say the least, a bloodbath of a game.
Yeah, I really loved it as we get your crown again. Very, very nice. I really did love that first game. We heard from the desk that there were a few mistakes from both teams, but I see those as chances to grow, and I see the upside of that, which is that both teams really did punish those mistakes quite nicely. I really appreciated a lot of the plays that we saw on both sides. It really did feel like both of the teams were very in tune with what they could actually get away with and what the other team more specifically couldn't get away with. And we saw that they ended up punishing a lot of that.
And I was just, we were talking about it a little bit right before we got the pass off, but just the Braum pick. In any other situation, like this is considered, a little bit more trolling than anything else. But in this situation, to the champions that Bogged played, the Braum actually worked out so well, Smacks.
Yeah, it might feel bad for Kangas to know that the champion that is in his likeness isn't quite in meta right now, but I'm sure he can get excited for Kenji pulling it out in such a nice way, as Nova really highlighted for us. I appreciated that one as well. I thought that was a really a good counter matchup into the Leona as well. It stops a lot of the advances in that isolated 2v2, and it does quite well at disengaging a lot of the stuff that the Rise and the Hecarim and the Pantheon were attempting.
Now, as we start heading into this game too, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that Bogged are going to have bans this time. So things like the Tryndamere and Gwen are very likely to not hit the map. I'm pretty sure a lot of the ban focus is going to be towards Mabud.
Probably the Jinx too. If I were to throw a third one in there, I think all of that is going to be taken off the board. As Bogged, as you can see right here, are going to be moving over to red and right away. Yeah, Tryndamere, you kind of just have to ban that one.
You kind of just have to. That getting banned away. I'm assuming Gwen would be another ban to come out. It's a great B1 to have, and Mabud excels pretty well when he's on that champion.
So interestingly about Mabud, he typically will actively look out for a counter pick, if possible in this draft. Of course, they are on blue, so there is a very real possibility that that is just not going to happen at all. The one exception is Tryndamere. So if Mabud does have Tryndamere available, he just picks that one no matter what, because he's just so good at it, as shown by that last game. Now, I think for Winthrop, the idea behind this top lane matchup is likely going to slide a bit further back into this draft, and that might actually force Kenji to pick his champion a little earlier, despite him getting some counter picks both today and last week.
So the final ban from Winthrop, this is one I was kind of expecting to see, is going to be the Rise. This is something that has gotten through the draft for Bogged a lot so far in this tournament. Tuesday's been able to play the Rise repeatedly, and it's just too much map pressure to have to deal with because Honori's always looking to free up Tuesday. With the Realm Warp, it was a hard early to mid game in that game number 1 when Tuesday was on that Rise. It scales so well. You're talking about the HP before. All offensive items still 3k HP.
Yeah, I mean, you do have the Seraph's Embrace, which helps out quite a bit in terms of the health. But apart from that, yeah, it was nuts. The Rise actually gets that much HP with that type of build. It goes to show that those tank builds really do make a lot of sense. For Winthrop, they have seen a couple of 80 carries taken off the board. They still want a late game carry for Vex, and while that usually would be Ezreal, it does seem like they are adjusting to Vex being more of a big carry force in the late game.
So Phalios being the first lock-in for Winthrop. It's definitely a solid first one to really take away, especially denying that from Benji, who has played a lot of Aphelios in this tournament so far and is quite the late game player. First pick coming in though, well, it's Bogged. You got hooks. Let's start making the joke. Nautilus gets picked in.
So trying to match that melee versus melee. Now that Kenji, I just realized how similar their names are.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Now that Kenji has shifted away from the enchanters that we saw from the last tournament and also from the first week of this one, he is going more towards the Thresh, the Blitzcrank, the Braum that we just saw. So we're definitely expecting that Kenji is going to be able to match this and be still rather safe into this Nautilus. Lulu is available, and Bogged did think that that was enough to ban away in the previous game. As you can see from the hover, they're thinking more about Kenji playing a melee. First, going to take a pit stop to jungle.
Right, so Frost Forest will be playing the Bear. Volibear getting locked in. A little bit of a Nori special. Frost Forest has been taking this a little bit more often. And, I'm glad to see he has been doing decently well with it. I think there's a lot of pressure on Frost Forest to perform onto the squad, especially after what we saw with the circuit qualifiers in Mordio. He wants to really bump up the competition. He really wants to bump up the performance. We're staying on the Frosty side of things, though, Smacks, as Braum gets locked in over for Winthrop.
More Freljordians. More blue champions, too, if you want to lump Aphelios in there. They're very color coordinated for Winthrop right now. Again, I really like this Braum. It's very defensive, and it does counteract the engages of Hecarim again, and even more so for this Nautilus, too. We mentioned on the desk, actually, RMC brought up that Ezreal is a contested pick between these two 80 carries, and while Benji previously had only played it one time, ended up being true. Benji going to lock that one in and be a bigger range-focused player in this game as opposed to the Kai'Sa.
And I do like it because it works well when you leave it alone by itself underneath its own tower when you got to get shoved in and you want to free up that support. But the main reason I like it so much is just because you have a Nori in your jungle role. A Nori likes to duo jungle with either his mid laner or his support. Free up hooks, get him on the Nautilus. It is a way to enable depending on what we see picked up for Tuesday in the mid lane.
Speaking of that, I'm curious if Tuesday is committed to playing this roam and push style, or if it's just going to be the Rise that he does that on, because there is still Twisted Fate, albeit rather nerfed recently. Can't quite clear the wave as fast as he used to with the Q damage lowered, but still quite powerful and fills that same role that we often see of Rise 2. So it is available for Tuesday if he wants to go to that. The Akali that we've seen him pop off on is already off the board with Winthrop's final ban.
Okay. Huh. Rumble getting locked in. I have to assume that's going to be topside. It's a big question mark for me, Smacks. It's been a while since I've seen the Yordle locked in. Another Yordle getting locked in over on the opposite side. I want to know your thoughts on this pick so far. Flex it top, flex it mid. What's going on here?
Well, if you do want to put it mid, it actually fits the push and roam style pretty well, because you have that ultimate you can use throughout the map, and we've even seen Rumble mids take things like the Predator. So maybe Tuesday has that in his wheelhouse to pull out. If it is going to be topside, like just by the fact that it is a flexible option between these two players is really solid as a fourth pick on red side, because it masks that counter pick for you.
Yeah.
But I think if, like I said before, if Tuesday really does want to be that roam style player on this team in this series, then that will be the option.
Scion. Gonna be the final pick for Winthrop. They're gonna grab the beefy boy from a bud in the top lane. Ivano having the Zoe, this is kind of a little bit of Ivano special. He definitely loves playing this. Tends to have a little bit of a weaker lane when he pops this out, but once you start abusing that Fog of War, once you start setting up those sieges, how do you say that plural, Smacks? That's when we start to see Ivano come online. But normally, this has been paired with an Ezreal. Can't be done. Bogged already grabbed that.
Will be sort of solo poke, as they've got the three beefcakes on this team with Scion, Volibear, and Braum. Just an added bonus as far as the siege goes, and specifically the zone control, I think, is why they're picking this. Not to mention Ivano's comfort on it. They can actually use things like the bubble and attacking people over the wall with paddle stars to gain access to things like the Drake Pit. And for Baron as well, you do want to have some way to match the poke control that Ezreal tends to have in those scenarios. So I think it is still wise, even if it's not paired alongside Ezreal. You don't have that really lethal amount of poke. It's just enough to satiate the team.
And Bogged, whenever they do draft, you always see the potential in the 5v5 by the time it shapes up by the end. Shockwave and Equalizer can work so well together if you get it in the right choke. It just forces them to stay there longer with the disruption of the Onslaught of Shadows. There's a lot of 5v5 tools for Bogged.
I really like this draft. I think this draft is a nice adjustment to the Rise ban that we saw from Tuesday. This feels like another one that doesn't have the same tools of roaming, but does have the same accessibility for empowering Inori on this Hecarim, which he did get again. If Bogged can win with this draft, then I think Winthrop will have to pivot away from this Rise ban and say, hey, maybe Inori's Hecarim is the true culprit that we have to capture. But as of right now, Winthrop's still at that match point. I do like their draft as well. It's less damage oriented than the previous one for sure.
They have a strong front line though. Considering I have a Phalia Zoe, you're gonna need that strong front line. If anyone on Bogged are able to try and figure out the opportunities that you can punish a Zoe when she's popping her ultimate in the middle of that, having a Braum, a Volibear, and Scion there can potentially protect that quite well. And if they want to take this as an engage or a disengage, there's plenty of ways you can really maneuver this composition, but it really depends on getting resources onto Ivano and Vex.
They've got all of those resources at their disposal. They also have the option to go with Hullbreaker Scion too, which is very similar to what my bud does on Tryndamere. That's a way you can tackle this draft too for Winthrop. If things go haywire, you always have that in your back pocket. So
you just go inting Scion with the Hullbreaker.
Yeah. Exactly. That was always my favorite thing when people would like try to do like the pacifist run on this champion, where like you ever seen that where like you play Scion or Tryndamere and you'd just take turrets the whole time and you go to the end of the screen and your damage to champions is 0.
Yeah, I've seen it before. I didn't realize people called it pacifist run.
Yeah. It's so funny.
Game number 2.
People would try that so hard where if you hit the Tryndamere E accidentally on a champion, they'd be like, I failed the pacifist run.
Oh my goodness. Please, let's never see that in competitive at the very least.
People think it's
I'm,
bugged.
I'm wondering how this is going to play out now. I don't expect Frost to put too much attention towards the top side. I actually expect them to play more towards the mid lane and potentially try and catch out whatever plays Inori is doing onto Ivano.
Definitely. You've got the crowd control set up from the Zoe Sleepy Trouble Bubble too, so this is a really lethal mid-jungle duo. I think for Ivano, he does have a bit of a hard time dealing with the Orianna ball early game, but I think if he can really get the wave clear down with his paddle stars, then it's going to be very, very effective. You can see that he agrees with that as well, because he's going for the minion dematerializer. He really wants to push in that wave and make sure he's dealing as much damage to those caster creeps as possible.
So now starts coming out for both junglers. It's going to be a blue side start out of Winthrop, red side out of Bogged. So both of these junglers will be pathing towards that bottom side. We'll have a potential meeting there. Inori could benefit from that from quite a bit. Doesn't have to be pressured into any exchanges that have to go on, but is great at pressuring them if they do go for those early ganks.
The benefit of Volibear into the Hecarim is that you do have more of a frontline presence at those early ganks as well. So even if you are getting responded to by Hecarim, like if Hecarim counter ganks you, usually that's a pretty big problem from really any jungler, but Volibear kind of counteracts that because he's just so tanky early game. So that is a really big thing that Frost Force has at his disposal as he is clearing towards this bottom side. Raptors before red tells us he's probably not going mid lane first.
And as for the top lane, you know, it's always fun to see these little things that happen outside of the Rift and whatnot. I remember seeing a little post by Mama Bud. Shout out to her if she's in the Twitch chat right now.
Oh, she is,
saying,
I'm sure.
Oh, I'm pretty sure. Saying that she was making sure to give Mabud a good dinner buff from home before he headed back out towards university. So, you know, Mabud's sitting high right now. He's got himself in a pretty good position. Belly full of mama's cooking.
I'm sure Mama Mabud is in this Twitch chat, and APA's mom Stacy is in the other one right now. Speaking of the other one, if you're not tuning in to that one, we have knockout matches on Unified Live as well, so definitely give that a check.
And every so often, my mom's in the Twitch chat.
Ooh, what is her username?
I think it's Diva D, something like that.
Oh, nice.
The name's
All right.
Diane, so
I'll look out for that
himself
one.
as a diva.
You know what? I'll say what my mom's username is, even though it's a bit embarrassing. It is Slim Sammy's mom. My
Slim Sammy. I love
my
it.
my username used to be Slim Sammy. So you know, I don't think I've ever said that on a cast before. So you all have
That's pretty
ammo
good.
against me now.
That takes second place to my Mama Bud.
Oh yeah, that one's so clever.
Hook coming in from Hooks, but he gets pulled back in. The winner's bite, locking him down, but there is a gank set up as Inori charges down the mid lane, pushes Genji into that wall. Genji gets rooted, forced to burn the flash to try and stay alive. Vex will block some of the shots coming in, but falls low thanks to the Mystic shot. No deaths going through for Winthrop as they're going to have to take a recall.
Winthrop's bot lane did a really nice job of spreading the damage between the two of them. You can see they both got really, really low, but didn't quite die. And now it's going to be up to them to actually decide if they want to stick around. Really risky to do this, but they really don't want to miss this cannon minion. And it looks like they will be punished for their indecisiveness as they recall anyway.
I like it. You're cutting a lot of that farm of the Aphelios and accelerating the Ezreal quite a bit. With both Vex and Kenshi having to take that recall, you know, Aphelios is that late game champion, needs 2 to 3 items before he does get online. Stall that as much as possible for this early game for Bogged and get your lead there.
You're going to see a pretty devastating experience gap between the bottom lanes and gold as well, because am I seeing that correctly? That's 3 turret plates at 5 minutes in the bottom lane?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely devastating.
Now returning to the lane, not losing that much in CS in the process, but the big thing is what you just said right there, right? All those plates picked up, comes back, Sheen now purchased by Benji on top of Tear the Goddess.
That's so much power. The Sheen giving Ezreal just so much agency, and he can very, very easily clear out the minion wave without Nautilus there at this point because Q has so much range in the Mystic Shot. And you have enough burst to take out usually half a minion's HP now with that Sheen. So Benji completely okay to be on his own, frees up a lot of time for hooks. And in the last game, we actually saw a lot of great moves from this player too, specifically with Inori. See if he can mimic that one in game 2.
Some rotation coming out from the bot lane of Winthrop as they draw some battle lines and kind of peek out at each other. No one really willing to throw that first hit. However, it's going to be Bogged who take this priority over the river. Hook's really trying to just get out of this lane. He's been roaming out from the river for quite some time, going into the jungle. Winthrop and taking away a lot of these wards. Now rotating back towards the bot lane after setting up that presence, setting up that vision line.
Bogged, it seems like they were setting up to maybe sneak a Drake in there, but didn't quite feel fully confident with it. They back up, they take just the Scuttle Crab, and go right back to farming. Not really on a big timer with that one. I don't think Winthrop really want to go for that either. They're still more interested in taking any skirmishes that they can with this Zoe and Volibear combination before Inori hits level 6.
Inori focusing down towards this bot side river. Walks into the brush just to try and stalk out members of Winthrop, but that vision control automatically established moments after Winthrop had just placed it. Bogged are really fighting for control over on this bottom side as they start up the Drake.
And Hooks hasn't been in lane for such a long time that this experience lead that Benji had from denying those last few waves is going to grow even further. I wouldn't be surprised if Benji is level 6 while Hooks is still at 4 at this point. This Ezreal going to be very, very accelerated. In a weird way than what we're used to seeing for Marksman. Usually you think of Marksman being accelerated as a lot of gold and a lot of items, but Ezreal does quite appreciate the extra levels considering the long cooldown that your Arcane Shift has. You can really shorten that one with all the extra levels and points that you put into that.
And into Mystic Shot on top of that.
True.
Really, Ezreal benefits quite a bit from levels. I remember the old days, Season 1 days, where you had Marksman in the mid lane, and then you realized, wait, these mages, they benefit much more from getting their levels and abilities faster. Let's just put the farm onto the Marksman.
Yeah. Ezreal always been that special case, you know. He's been flexed to jungle in the past years too.
Oh, man.
Can't forget that one. Rafa never lets me forget.
The Elder Lizard,
yeah.
I forget what that item was called. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you had it. That's what it was. The spirit of the Elder Lizard. Fun times for Ezreal.
They actually kind of were fun times for Ezreal, just not fun times for everyone else, man.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. He's much more balanced now. I like his state at this point. And Benji seems to as well. He's been popping off of this champion recently. Just ulted that wave too. And Vex again is at quite a big deficit. Winthrop fully realizes now that Hooks is just not going to go bottom lane anymore. He's more interested in helping Tuesday push out mid. So Kenji will match that and go around the rift now.
Lots of presence coming out of Bogged early, utilizing Hooks. It will put him on the squishier side if a fight breaks out, but he now matches Kenji on that level 5. Now here comes the engage. Shockwave pulling 3 back, but First Blood comes in from the slam and jam of Frost Forest. Onslaught of Shadows chasing the back line, but there is a key exhaust going through. Inori gets slowed and doubled by Frost Forest. D-Shao now trying to equalize, but a fail flash from Frost Forest doesn't do him well. Paddlestar over the wall. Tuesday tries to punish Ivano. Fight breaks out a 2-for-1 in favor of Winthrop.
Very, very unfortunate there for Frost Forest on the flash. What otherwise would have been a perfect play. And it's again off of Kenji's map movements there too. I really, really liked that he was able to get there and acknowledge eventually that he just doesn't need to be balling anymore. He can go match Hooks and have a lot of fun with the rest of the team. Some crucial ultimates for Bogged I really enjoyed. Tuesday landing a multi-man Shockwave, and this Rumble ultimate too does a lot to cut off the fight, but they're just not strong enough this early into the game, and their damage isn't as effective as you know it will be later. But it's good to see that their ultimate accuracy is on point for the rest of this game.
Both of those kills going on to Frost. Unable to complete his first item just yet. Does have the stopwatch, and you know he's looking for dives quite soon. Only problem is there's nowhere where he can really play off of too much. Priority hasn't exactly gone Winthrop's way in this early game.
Definitely not. You'd expect a lot more with the Volibear and the Zoe, but it's not nothing at this point. This Unbreakable Wall denies a lot of that damage from Benji. This is, again, a good use of the Braum pick that we're seeing from Kenji in both games of the series so far. I have enjoyed his presence on this.
A lot of pressure coming out from Minori towards this bottom side, really trying to shut out Vex and the Cephalios. Hasn't been the most successful other than that early stage where they did accelerate the Ezreal that we saw earlier. And looking at that Ezreal, it is Caulfield's Warhammer now completed, so still CSing quite well, still doing quite well on the econ, but just not the stifling of the bot lane of Winthrop that Bogged were looking for in this early game.
Bogged, they didn't really feel confident in those skirmishes because of the Volibear and Vex, so you can see that reflected in that. And for Winthrop, they did lose out on this Drake because they used all their skirmish tools, but they used it on the top side of the map. So Bogged was able to clean up what they could, go and take that Infernal Dragon, and now they're looking for something else in the same spot.
Oh, Nori with the timing there. As the sleep goes out, he pops Onslaught of Shadow, so it's like that skill never even really went off. Does get him to slide on by Ivano, but for Frost Forest, just getting a Nori out of that area so he can get the Rift Herald was the goal.
Bogged, you can see we're really trying to fight for this Rift Herald because it would be so effective used in that bottom lane. It would just completely break apart that lane even further. It does look like Benji and Vex traded some heals, so some combat traded. It does look like it's because Kenji got really low, as he just recalled. So Benji potentially was close to getting a solo kill. The isolated one might happen up here too.
Tower dive onto Dishao, my bud. He's a tanky boy, absorbs those shots like nothing. Dishao with the slows. He's walking far from home, though. Here comes the slam, unable to hit it. My bud doesn't really need to. Frost Forest, the hungry bear. It's mauled in the woods as Frost Forest picks up kill number 3.
This very well could be a full-on turret against Dishao if he doesn't want to teleport over to it. With the Rift Herald, first turret very easily grabbed. And there's not a lot of time to take turret plates elsewhere, so I feel like Winthrop are definitely going to do that. There it is. Bogged respond with a Drake of their own, though, and this is 2 dragons now. Now, things are starting to get a little dicey. You have to start considering whether or not Winthrop are going to start fighting for these Drakes with a lot more priority, because they don't want the enemy team to have soul.
And this is a rather tame early game from Winthrop. Usually it's them pushing the momentum, trying to find the plays. They're just playing this out slowly. It plays a little bit more into what we've seen from Bog style in the past, where they go for these scalers and just get towards the late game. That's all we need to really beat you guys down. It makes me curious how the later stages of this game are going to break out once we get towards the mid game and get fights around those neutrals.
Yeah. In another world, you'd definitely see Winthrop go for a lot more fights, and you'd probably also see Mabud with Hullbreaker, but they're playing a lot more safe and reserved. I say that, and they're diving between turrets right now. Really nice play, though.
Yeah, I mean, Dishao was left alone. Kenji, minion wave, everything was there. Vex picks it up with ease, and it's nice for him. Oh, did he get that turret play? I think he just missed it.
Yeah.
It hurts a bit, but still he gets the kill and alone time with that tower. The response out of Bogged is the mid lane.
Oh, no, short changes that one. He's going to still get the wave. Yeah, I again, really like that acknowledgement that Dishao could not walk up there, and I don't believe he had his ultimate available to even get the wave. Does now, of course, but not quite in time as Winthrop take yet another turret, keeping that gold lead once more. And we've been saying a lot that the early game has been quiet for Winthrop. They are still winning it very handedly right now. You can see they're in a very solid lead, about 2,000.
You know, the main reason that comes out is just it's usually Winthrop who are the proactive team in the early game. It's Bogged who have been trying to be, and just Winthrop capitalizing on the missteps of Bogged. It's a different playstyle than I'm used to seeing from Winthrop, to say the least. But things have to start happening at least on the map soon. 3 minutes until that dragon spawns, and I can't imagine Bogged would very much enjoy that. It's a potential win condition set up early.
Soul would really aid in their offensive capabilities in this position, because unlike the last game, they really only have one diver, and it is Hecarim. Everyone else's supplementary damage layered on top of that one. It's not the Leona, the Pantheon, that's going to be helping Inori out. It's really just him.
Ooh, caught out
nice
alone. True Shot Barrage goes off, but Frost Forest picks up kill number 4 now into this bottom lane. Tension from Bogged go back to the mid.
And you can see why Benji was confused there, because they get mid turret. Oh boy.
Oh, slamming right in is going to be Mabud. Equalizer goes out. It's not going to do too much other than cut the map. Frost Forest joins. Vex gets isolated, though, and dropped. Mabud still holding this front line, but he has no damage dealers to work with here. Ivano is still walking up the river, waiting for the Sleepy Trouble bubble that goes wide. Now Paddle Star over the wall. Ivano's still very far from his tower. Mabud still alive, but Frost Forest jumps in. Battle Star over the wall, and finally they wear them out oh so slowly, but it works as the bubble onto Tuesday. Frost will continue the chase, slam onto the Orianna, and tear Tuesday apart, but too fast is Tuesday this time. Frost Forest still has the right way in, but now has to find a way out. Here comes Benji, going golden. Frost buys time. You don't have damage for Mabud and Kenji, though. This is a tough one to complete for Winthrop, and this might be an overcommittal. It definitely is, as a double kill picked up by Benji. Find the triple on top of it. Bogged turned the team fight around.
Ooh, that is going to be disastrous for Winthrop in the end because of the overcommit onto Tuesday, who's got the phase rush, he's got the movement speed, even the Ludens as well, giving him that extra burst now on top of it. This is a slippery robot in the mid lane, Desterux, and Winthrop just did not quite respect it. You can see that gold lead that they had really big at the start of that fight dropped down ever so slowly, or ever so steeply, I should say, and Benji now back in it in terms of that CS lead and everything that he held so dear in the laning phase.
And a lot of those fights, Winthrop, you got to keep in mind, strong front line, but if your damage dealers are not there, it is very hard to get results. Frost can get some work done, Mabud can get some work done. But yeah, you know who does it better? Tuesday and Benji. Mystic shots, command attacks.
And that whole exchange really started because Winthrop went and got a pick off onto Benji very early on. I say that, and we're definitely going to start another fight right now.
Oh, there comes the shockwave of Nori low. Here comes the Glacial Faravano. Not live to see another moment around this Drake. Kenji waiting for someone to get him over that wall. The Bogged are going to take team fight win for the Dragon. It's going to put them at soul point, but Nori is quite low. A hook comes in from Hooks onto Mabud as Frost rejoins the fight. Vex still healthy. Dishao low. Vex drops him. Now Mabud trying to get away, but it's 4-on-1. Good luck with that zombie mode. Swings away, but slows are there. Bogged will still continue with their momentum as they take the team fight win, leash the Dragon. Vex and Frost Forest, though, they got something to say. Teleport now being chanceled. Frost getting low. Nori jumps in. Vex has yet to auto hooks. Pulls in Vex, but Vex is now going to look for those kills as he hops in with the Gale Force, but gets dropped. Kenji's Winter Bite is not going to do much. There's a shockwave onto Ivano. Paddle Star return. True Shot Barrage gets blocked by the Unbreakable. Now Ivano and Kenji just need to walk away from this one. Winthrop have bitten off more than they can chew about twice in one single fight.
And that one was just too clustered and too uncomfortable for Winthrop all throughout. They did not have a solid stream of attack into that Drake pit. They were coming at it from so many different angles, and that's just not what you're going to be able to do with a composition like this. You have a very clear defined front line, very clear defined back line. There's not a lot of leeway in terms of flanks. Maybe Mabud could have landed something, but they just weren't quite synced up. Bogged punished that beautifully with the organized chaos that they introduced yet again. That's been their main source of teamfight skill and prowess all throughout this tournament. Benji and Tuesday dealing so much extra damage, and Nori running everyone down, and Dishao as well with a very nicely placed ultimate.
Nori's been so good at just breaking through defenses and stopping retreats as he does just that to Mabud. It's going to be slow. Mabud has a lot of health, but it is a sad death nonetheless. 20 minutes into this, Mabud falling in the top side of a 3-man gank. And if you look at the map, Winthrop, they just don't have the response. They have nothing they can do to follow that up.
Letting a lot slip through the cracks right now, Winthrop. They had a really, really solid early game. And they have given it up off of a few series of plays that seemed good on paper, but couldn't quite land in the middle of it. Execution going the way of Bogged in this game number 2 right now. Winthrop still at match point. They are still so close at eliminating Bogged from the tournament and advancing to the playoffs, where they performed so well in the last one. You can see that on the horizon for Winthrop. They feel it coming, but they have stumbled a few times in this one, and they've made it a lot more difficult to actually achieve that in 2 games.
About 1.5k separating these teams. Bogged having the lead 21 minutes into this. 2 minutes 30 seconds before Drake spawns. That would be Soul. Bogged. A Mountain Soul Tuesday in isolation, and Phosphorus jumps on him right away. Damage is returned. Benji bringing in those mystic shots. Here comes the teleport as Mabud tries to flank in. Frost, oh so low. Will Strull try to fight as the equalizer goes down, and the rest of Winthrop can do nothing. Retreat as Bogged takes another.
And again, battle lines aren't quite there for Winthrop in time. Bogged again find a pick off due to it. So they will scramble to get out of this one before the fight actually begins on Winthrop's terms. Winthrop pushing in this wave. Really, again, scratching their heads on what they can do in the oncoming minutes here. Because, again, they really don't want to give up that Drake Soul. Less than 2 minutes remaining on that. Winthrop need to get things together in the 5v5 if they're going to advance through in this game.
Here's the thing. Look at Bogged. You know, you have Flash available on Tuesday, Flash available on Benji, Arcane Shift on top of that. To try and engage onto those members, there's so much tell. You have time to react towards the Volibear ultimate, towards the Scion ultimate, even the ultimate coming out from the Braum. You have time to react. You have time to keep these carries alive, and Bogged have been doing great at it. Tuesday, yet to fall. Benji only falling once. This is looking good for the carries of Bogged.
Benji has been doing such a nice job in this game. You're seeing the fruits of his labor in the lane as well. 13 is his level against Vex's 11. That is a gigantic experience lead in this game. He's making his way toward a 3rd item on top of it. Bogged feel very, very confident to zone off the members of Winthrop. You see that Ivano is in the bottom lane with teleport, mind you, so we'll be able to arrive to any team fight if it happens in a second's notice. But for Bogged, that's not wavering their confidence at all. They, like you just said, have a lot of slippery mechanisms to keep their carries alive, even if things happen super fast.
Now, Vex has his flash. Doesn't have a stopwatch yet. I feel like this is something he would at least want to grab a little sooner, which is how good the rest of Bogged has been engaging on these fights. Now Winthrop are going to look to find and engage, but there's the shockwave counter. Mabud gets knocked up. Equalizer to cut him off from his team. Benji will take him down. Outside of Shadows goes through from Minori. Mabud going to use that zombie mode, but can't get anyone low enough as a hook goes through. Vex will take down hooks in the process. 2 low health bars for Winthrop. A trade. Top laner for support. Winthrop don't look like they want a thing to do with this dragon fight, but that is going to be Dragon Soul picked up by Bogged.
Phosphorus can't get in on this. Look at Tuesday's positioning. He played that last team fight so well on Orianna, and he's continuing it in this one too. Oh no!
Ivano gone, burned by D Xiao. True shot barrage on the back of the dome, and with Ivano's fresh death timer, Bogged are looking around this Baron pit. They see an easy dub. They see easy money. Can Winthrop do anything about it?
Ivano's half their damage. Vex has to pull so much weight here in through the Mountain Soul as well. It's a long shot for Winthrop to actually do anything in this fight. Phosphorus could maybe steal it with an ultimate, but look at all this damage. Oh, he's dead!
Benji takes him down. Easy kill picked up. Easy Baron picked up by Bogged. The Baron power play now going their way. And hey, it's not done just yet. It's a combo deal. Genji on the wrong side of town.
Oh, he burns to the ignite. So the support getting the kill right there. Hooks want a part of the party. Yeah, Bogged now with this Baron and with their carries fully online. It feels like we are, in fact, going to that game 3 at this point. I really have enjoyed the skirmishes from this team, and specifically Tuesday. Impressive as ever. Every single team fight has been super, super nice in the positioning and in the skill shots. Oh, man, he's really putting in the work to make this team go to that third game.
Tuesday's such a cracked player. Such a cracked player. I mean, every Proving Grounds team he's been on has always had such a presence with him on it. You know, he's been outstanding, a wealth of experience that he offers to any roster he gets put on. And right now, with the way he's been performing, you know, he's not on the Rome champions that we've seen before that he's excelled on. He's just on a standard team fight control mage, and he's still putting up numbers.
Super, super impressive. Like, you'd think in a competition like this that he'd just be facilitating Hecarim, but no, he's making the plays on his own. 4-0-10 right now, only looking to increase that scoreline. They barrel all these minions through mid lane and top at the same time. Tuesday with the teleport can stay up there nice and cozy. Not so cozy for Winthrop. They are losing their turrets left and right.
And the siege that Winthrop was hoping to do with the Zoe is now being done to them by Benji on this Ezreal. And when Winthrop have taken the Zoe, I had mentioned it during Champion Select, they really do like pairing it with the Ezreal. It's a combo that they love, they get a lot of poke in, and it's been one of the ways that they've been able to brute force a lot of these mid games. Now, not getting that duo, now they have to survive the siege that's coming their way, and it has been tough.
So now that Rumble ultimate, this is a team fight.
Here we go. An engage comes through. Glacial Fissure. Frost on the back end gets pulled right back in. Getting split a little bit is Bogged, but it's not going to be enough. With the flames coming out, going golden is the Xiao. Onslaught of Shadows onto the back line and cleaning up Winthrop. Inori cleaves through him. Benji with the triple kill. This is sure to be game right here. As the mid game sparked, so did Bogged.
They absolutely did. D-Shao in that last team fight played it so well, blocking all advances as Kenji might survive, but Winthrop in... Oh, no, he definitely won't. And Winthrop's going to game 3 off of a huge win from Bogged.
A couple more whacks on that Nexus, and, well, it's been nothing but 2 O's in this group, Smacks. We have a series on our hands. Finally, Group A is going to put up, and that was a hell of a match. This is a hell of a series to put it on.
Yeah, I love these games so far. This series is already delivering as we go to that third and final game. Both teams are just one Nexus away from advancing in this circuit qualifier and moving on into the playoffs. In the same vein, only one loss would dictate one of these teams being fully eliminated from here on out. A lot riding on this third game, and I can't wait.
A lot riding on it indeed. We are going to take a moment to have a short break, but when we return, I know the analyst desk is dying for this one, especially after a Bogged win and trying to take down the king right here. We'll be right back with more matchup of Winthrop University versus Bogged Esports.